Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. The other day I did a video recommending you guys 5 rogue decks to try out for November 2021, and one of them I recommended was SS4 Towa. So I'm going to show you guys the build today that I've been playing that I really like for the deck. Once again, I don't know who originally found out this concept. I don't want to miscredit anybody, but I do want to shout that person out, whoever you are. This is a really cool find that the leader can reduce the cost of the SS4 battle cards by 1 because they are considered non-black, even though they have black in their color. Because they're multicolor, they're still considered non-black. It's just a weird ruling within the game that somehow works, but it does work. So pretty cool concept for the deck. This is a pretty simple deck, but at the same time I think it's pretty different than the builds I've seen for this strategy. I don't lean too heavily into the SS4s. I think I just play the ones that I think are the most important, but we'll get into that today, guys. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video, and if you guys want to help support the channel, many ways to do so down in the description. But if you want to buy any of the cards for this deck, or any trading card game cards for that matter, use my link in the description to TCG Player. It does help out a lot. So we'll start with the leader. So Towa, what she does, again, she does reduce the cost of all battle cards by 1, and she makes them colorless with no specified cost. We are charging all black in this deck, so that doesn't really matter, but it is just something to know. When she attacks, draw a card, and you can take a life. You awaken at 4, untap 1, draw 1. On the backside, same permanent to reduce costs, attack, gain 5k, and draw a card this time. And then if one of your Xeno battle cards is removed, you get to draw a card, which is really good because your opponent's going to want to be removing those cards because you're going to be building an insane board in this deck. That's kind of the point of this deck. So you get rewarded when your battle cards are interrupted, messed around with, stuff like that. So we'll start with the first SS4 card, SS4 Vegeta Prismatic Aegis. The main thing is the on play, you get to draw 2 cards and then put 1 to the bottom of your deck, and it's a 16k critical for 1 energy. That is your main turn 1 play. You want this card on turn 1 as much as you can help it. It is just that good. The next card we have is Gohan Prismatic Burst. So this is the floodgate of the deck. So this card can actually be casted for 0 energy in this deck because you have the leader reducing it by 1 cost, and you have the card itself reducing it by another cost. And because the specified cost is eliminated, you're able to go to a 0 cost card, which is pretty insane. Basically, as long as you have 3 of the SS4 guys in play, you can cast him for 0, and then your opponent's only going to be able to attack with battle cards and unison cards X times per turn, where X equals the different colors in their energy. So if you're playing against a monocolor deck, they're only gonna be able to attack 1 more time with battle cards or unison cards for that turn. So it's a really powerful floodgate. Again, especially the fact you can use it for 0. That's not something the SS4 Bardock deck can do. And I'm not saying in any way this is better or worse than the SS4 Bardock deck. It's just different. It does things a little bit differently. SS4 Bardock is definitely a bit more mid-range control-y. This can definitely be a lot more aggressive, but still a bit mid-rangey, which is why I kind of like it. Next card on the list, though, we have Bardock Prismatic Burst. So this is basically our denial of hope in the deck. Again, colorless, you can pay black for this effect, and you can have it cost 1 because of the leader. Now, in this deck in particular, you don't really want to charge any of the multicolor guys, so you won't really be using Prismatic Burst for 0, but still, 1 energy, denial of hope, that's still really good for messing with counterplays and floodgate negates like Mecha Riposte, Toba Righteous Aid, stuff like that. So that's really good. And then we have Gohan Prismatic Aegis, just a 1-drop in this deck, 16k double striker. Play it, warp a guy 4 or less, just really good value. And that's all the SS4s that we're playing. A lot of other lists play the yellow Gokus, and they go into like some Gogeta Xeno stuff. I don't think that's worth it in this deck, because one of the biggest critiques of this deck is that you play a lot of cards that you can't really charge readily, and you play a lot of cards that cost 1 to combo. So I wanted to play the very bare minimum of SS4s that I felt was just a good number to play, and I feel like this is really just the vital stuff. I'm not playing Gogeta Xeno stuff in this deck, so we're not really worried about fusing at all. So that's kind of where I'm at with these cards. Next up, though, we have Demon God Towa Recurring the Dark Empire. Basically, what this card lets you do is cheat out 2 of these guys. They do have their skills negated, but it is a really easy way to build a board, and it only costs 1 energy. So what you can do is, like, you can awaken on turn 2, having played Vegeta on turn 1, and then 1 energy, you're playing 2 more 16k attackers. That's your 3 battle cards. That's going to allow you to use Gohan Prismatic Burst for free going into your opponent's next turn. So that's the way you can use that type of floodgate negate for free, protecting your board, protecting your life total. And then if any of them happen to even get removed, your leader on the awakened side triggers to draw a card, which is pretty insane. So this is definitely one of the main playmakers of the deck. It does require your opponent to have 2 energy though, so you know you can't really go too crazy with it if you go first, but still, I mean, if you go first, you have an advantage anyway, so that's really good. We're playing 4 copies of Dark Dragon Balls. Basically, you can look at the top 7 cards of your deck, add any of these SS4 cards, so it's just more search power, just makes our deck smaller. We are playing a 50 card deck, so want to make sure we're as consistent as possible. Seeing Vegeta on turn 1 is really important, so want to make sure we can do that consistently. And we're playing 4 copies of SS4 Bardock Spirit Resonance. So yeah, back when I was talking about that turn 2 play, right? So you use Towa for 1 energy, then you're going to awaken, get that energy back. Now you're at 2 energy. That gives you the perfect amount to play Bardock Spirit Resonance, start upticking it, and start drawing cards. That's the main thing here. Of course, you can -2 it if you want to, you know, halt your opponent from attacking with battle cards. But yeah, the main thing is setting this up for turn 2 to be protected by a copy of SS4 Gohan Prismatic Burst. If they attack the unison, you can negate, and now you've just limited the rest of their attacks for the turn, and your unison is free to uptick. Like, Bardock SS4 is a really good unison, but he shares the same problem that a lot of 2-cost +1 unisons have, which is they can be removed very easily if you don't have a way to stop your opponent from attacking them, whether that's blockers, negates, counterplays, stuff like that. So with Gohan Prismatic Burst protecting Bardock, it's often that you're going to be able to +1 and keep him alive going into your subsequent turns, which is such an insane value house. Like, you have the board you set up for the first 2 turns, you have a battle card from turn 1, 2 battle cards from turn 2, your unison, and then your leader continuously swinging, and then any board state you can establish turn 3 and beyond is just crazy value your opponent has to deal with realistically. We're playing 4 copies of S4 Vegeta, the Prince Strikes Back. This is one of the main reasons we're charging all black in the deck. I want to be able to use the best super combo possible because, again, we are playing a lot of cards that do combo for 1 energy, so I want to be able to tuck those when I don't want them. We're not playing Senzu Bean, which is a minor downfall of the deck, but we're only playing 4 Vegetas, so that would be 8 blue cards, one of which we have to charge tapped, so I figured it wasn't worth it. And Senzu Bean could theoretically you know, improve the plays of the deck, but I just didn't feel like playing more copies of a dead energy was worth it realistically. Then we have the Supreme Kai of Time Negate. This could be this. This could also be Panzino SCR. Those are both really good choices for this deck. Panzino is really nice because you do flood a board, so she's going to be a free cast more often than not. But of course, playing Kai for 1 still a great cheap attacker, and dealing with unisons and your opponent's wide board is still also really good. This could be either of those things. This could even be Heroine's Lineage if you want to keep this deck more budget, because up to this point, I'm not sure what the Demon God Towa TP is at this point. I know it got hyped when this idea kind of came about. I'm assuming it probably cooled down by now, hopefully, but at the point of this, if this TP has cooled down up to the secret rare, this should be pretty budget friendly if you want to build it low rarity. And then if you want to play Heroine's Lineage, that's still a fine SCR to play and keep it more budget friendly. Then we have 4 copies of Demigod Demonic Overlords. So this is a card that I have not seen in a deck like this, and I'm playing this as a more aggressive build, so I am playing 4 copies of this card. So basically, for 2 energy, if your leader is a Demigod or a Towa, which we are a Towa, you can take 1 or 2 life, burst 2 cards, then you get to play a Poutine and a Gravy from your deck or warp. So just more aggression, more attacks, and it's another way to get awakened turn 2, although this takes 2 energy, so you're not going to be able to set up that SS4 Bardock play. But instead of playing SS4 Bardock, you can do this same play where instead of like playing a unison, you're putting out more attackers. You get a 20k Gravy, which is really good. But for the first Poutine we play Poutine Dark Sorceress. This is a really cool tech I like, because even though we're not playing a yellow leader, normally you see this Poutine with yellow leaders, but Demigod Demonic Overlord can play any Poutine from your deck. So you can just play out Demonic Sorcerer if you're, again, looking to go a bit more the mid-range route and stall your opponent while they're, you know, playing battle cards by skills. You can kind of interrupt them. And we're playing 2 copies of Frigid Blast Poutine. So basically 4 total Poutines to bring out. You can bring out Frigid Blast if you need a 10k attacker. Let's say you're trying to pressure your opponent's unawakened unison. And you can also search for another copy of Demigra. So you can continue to play battle cards, but realistically it just, you know, adds a card to your hand that you can charge. So it keeps your hand nice and big and healthy. And then we do play 3 copies of Gravy Lightning's Might, the 20k battle card that we can bring out off of Gravy. So this is really the value that this engine brings to the deck, again, for a much more aggressive version of this deck that plays less of the SS4 guys. I think this is a pretty good way to go about it, because again, you do get awakened very quickly, and you get to establish more of a board state, which is pretty cool. And we are playing 2 copies of Further Instruction Champa. Of course, you're playing an aggro deck. You want to be able to double strike your opponent for game. Nothing really crazy there. Double strike crits with Vegeta, though, 26k is really, really good because that extra 1k does make it a bit more annoying for your opponent to combo out of sometimes. And 2 copies of Secret ID. This could be like a fighting against fate for the real aggressive route, but I feel like we have so much, like, just ways to put battle cards on the board that I want to actually have an overwhelm that removes my opponent's battle cards, whether it's blockers or I'm trying to grind with my opponent and playing this mid-range style of game. I want to be able to deal with their board, so Secret ID is very, very good for that. Then we have 3 copies of Petrification. No real reason to play Power Burst in the deck because we don't really have a black 1-drop to recycle, and Petrification I think is just that broken of a card. Being able to stop attacking autos is so powerful, so definitely a 3 of for me in the deck for sure. And the final card is Koitsukai Mechanical Courage. This is a more recent addition to the deck. You definitely don't have to play this, and if you were to cut Koitsukai, you could actually end up playing this deck really, really budget, because Koitsukai is not so budget, unfortunately. And if you replace the SCR with Heroine's Lineage, that'd be very, very budget. But I did include 2 Koitsukai, and this is more so when like Icarus is running around, but people are still playing battle cards during your turn. Like you have Kaba playing Arrivals, you have Yellow decks playing Robotic Riposte, you have Blue decks playing Oceanus Negate. So Koitsukai 2 is really good. I mean, you are going to be pitching cards with Gohan Prismatic Burst, so that's a good card to just throw in the drop and then use its effect later on. Only costs 1, so it doesn't really get in the way of your plays too much, and now your opponent is going to get severely punished if they want to interrupt you on you know, your turn. So that's the profile, guys. Hope you like it. Again, I think it's a pretty different take on SS4 Towa. I've been really liking this build. Again, it's more of like an aggro mid-range strategy, but I do want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.